Okay, now I want to talk to you, I'll take you on a little history. First of all, it dawned on me that we know who you are because of your email addresses and your registration, but it's probably in the spirit of being in community together. If we can go around, say who we are, which school district, and how many years we've been, or months, or hours we've been on the board. Philip, can we start with you?
Okay, Phil Leitner, I'm the superintendent in Montpelier, and this is my second year in Montpelier.
Kyle Trainer, first time school board member, month on, farmer as a regular profession.
Thank you.
Tanya Harden, I'm in the Velma School District, and I was just elected in June. Thank you.
Kyle Elmstead, Rockford Cheyenne District. Just started.
Amy Zackerson, I am the superintendent of North Star Public Schools since July.
I'm Heather Dury. I am from North Border School District, and I'm new to.
Ashley Schaefer, North Border School District, and then I was also the administrative assistant for 4 years before switching to this role.
Kendra Troop, I'm the business manager at the North Border School District. This will be my 5th school year.
Stephanie Yellowhammer from the Fort Yates Public School. But I was also a teacher for a couple of years, and my background is in early childhood education, so I'm pretty familiar with education.
I'm Shannon Cosley. I'm North Border School District. I think this is my 5th year on the school board, and recently elected president.
Congratulations.
Man, I like it.
Yeah.
Karen Martinez and Naughton School Board, which is just north of Bismarck. This is my first year. We have about 20 students, grades 1 through 8.
Barbara Mothershead on the last school board, just appointed this year. Appointed.
Val Wagner, Ellendale School District. This is my 5th year.
I'm Randy Strom of the Apple Creek School District, and this is I finished 1 year as board director. This is my second.
William Moore, North Border District, first year.
Senator Stanslin from Oak Run. I've been a 4-year board member, just recently took over as president.
Congratulations.
Wayne Trotter, your superintendent at Sawyer School District.
Keith Young with Newtown Public School. I was previously on the school board and got reelected again and the president.
Congratulations. Thanks. Okay, thanks so much for doing that. Appreciate it. We got a lot of North Border. Do we need to like post an open meeting for you guys?
There's an exemption for that.
Okay.
Where is North Border?
There.
It's up in the northeast part of the state. It's
So you're
Pembina and Walhalla.
Okay.
So you had Walhalla, Pembina, and then there was
Nitchie.
Nitchie, and Nitchie is no
Nitchie
longer
closed, and now it's just 2 schools, one in Walhalla and one in Pembina.
How far apart?
35 miles.
35 miles from the Pembina building to the, and both are K-12?
Yes.
So your seat only,
What's that?
No.
so your seat only 20 classes. Say, all right, as Montpelier School District, say we're short like an English teacher.
Yes.
Could you use that as a,
Yes.
could
And-
say, like if I had a teacher teach the English, in your English class and use that for all the students as one broadcast done, say,
So your PIA teacher could be the supervisor. So
Yes.
there's a school district, Wolford. Does anybody know where Wolford is? It's like, okay. So Wolford existed, they were shrinking, and they couldn't hire teachers. And for the last 6 or 7 years of their existence, all of their math classes and all of their English classes and all of their science classes were offered through Center for Distance Ed. They just simply could not find science, math, or English teachers to come to Wolford. And so but the community really rallied around. They hired paraprofessionals to supervise the students while they required that those students came to school every day. They were, attendance was taken and all of the other things that go along with being a student at Wolford, but the students went into a room and they did their Center for Distance Ed. And for freshman English, sophomore English.
So you still have to pay for them students, each individual student, or is it one for that teacher giving that
So that's a Center for Distance Ed question. I know that they do give breaks to school districts that are using them as the teacher. So it wouldn't, you would still have to pay a fee to Center for Distance Ed, but I don't think it's the individual rate of $239 or $229. So, and I'm not sure, Wolford actually did eventually close because then their elementary classes started to shrink and their school district
But I mean,
split
just
up among
say
them.
you're with teacher shortage,
Yeah.
if you have,
And I think those are some of the things that our teachers themselves and our school administrators are looking at, rather than reducing the requirements for a teacher to be in the classroom. Because I've always said, I want to go back and apologize to every student that was in my first 2 years of teaching, because nobody deserves a first-year teacher or a teacher that isn't prepared to be in that classroom. And so, as we look to solve these teacher shortage problems, the Center for Distance Ed is a really good option, especially
or
for
can
our small
teachers
schools.
use the Center for Distance Ed to kind of use as a guideline for their curriculum?
So I'm not sure about, most of their, because as Amy, I didn't finish any sentence there. Amy pointed out that there is, it's kind of work at your own pace. So classroom teachers generally follow a bit different cadence, but yeah, your teacher.
Yeah, I mean, just to get,
yeah,
maybe they get better ideas out of that, or and
Yep.
combine the two into one, or whatever, you know?
teachers are really good sharers of ideas.
Yeah.
Really good sharers. So, all right. So I'm going to walk through our North Dakota PK12 education strategic vision and progress monitoring. That's a real big mouthful. But essentially, what this is this is the guiding document that was created with a ton of stakeholders about 8 years ago. Governor Burgum likes to hold this up as a shining example of the way North Dakota works together. No other colleague of mine, and there are the 50 states and 8 jurisdictions that belong to the organization that I belong to, no other state has been able to come together and create something like this. And they are in awe of the fact that we were able to create this. Because the people that created this were comprised of, North Dakota's got probably one of the most segmented K-12 education systems in the entire nation. In other states, the teacher licensing board is generally under the Department of Education, our department. The CTE is normally under the Department of Education. In North Dakota, it's not that way. Our Center for Distance Ed is normally under the Department of Education. That just happened this legislative session. Previously, the Center for Distance Ed was under our IT department. And so we're really segmented. So we had all of those people come together. So the CTE state agency, the licensing board, the Department of Public Instruction, EduTech, our public school, our legislators. In addition to the state agencies, we had our alphabet soup. We had our teachers union, our administrators union, our school boards association. All of those people came together and spent almost 2.5 years looking at data and saying, what is it as a state that we need to do? And we came up with this vision that said, our vision is that all students will graduate choice ready with the knowledge, skills, and disposition to be successful. Jim Upgren is going to talk after me and explain our choice ready measurements a little bit more to you. But we're saying whatever they choose to be, our responsibility as a system is to make sure that they're ready for that choice. I will tell you, I have 3 sons. I told you that already. My oldest son was a liberal arts guy when he graduated from high school. Then I have twins. My middle son was a son that was never going to college. That was just the way that it was. And my youngest son was a math and science person. I will tell you that as we talked about CTE, the twins, that kid that was never going to college was taking the automotive, the welding. That's the reason that got him up to go to school in the morning, construction. Unfortunately, his twin was treated differently. The math and science kid that actually ended up being a language speech pathologist that works for hospitals now. They thought Chancellor, the speech pathology kid, science kid, was the smart one, and his twin was not. And then my liberal arts kid that has gone on to, get his master's degree and does several other things, his MBA, they all scored a 28 on their ACT, which is not bad. But that kid in CTE learned math, writing, communication. So that kid went to school to be an electrical lineman and finished that coursework and just realized that linemen get paid the most in the middle of a freezing ice storm, climbing poles, and he didn't want to do that. So that kid decided that wasn't for him. He's now 30 years old and is just completing his master's degree in public administration because he went on to be a firefighter and an EMT and wants to do public administration. So that's what we mean when we say choice ready. Most 17-year-olds are going to say, I'm never going to college, or I'm only going to UND, or I'm only going to NDSU because, I bleed red and green, or my family bleeds red and green. But our job is to make sure that they're ready to do a lot of different things. Not just college, not just work, because they change their minds. They change their minds. So that's what choice ready means. Using data, we decided that these were the 6 most important things that we hoped our legislators focused in on, that all state agencies focused in on, and most importantly, that our school districts, our school board members, and their partners, their superintendent and leadership teams focused in on. We said we have to increase the number of students that are prepared, who enter kindergarten prepared to learn, right? So what can we do for early childhood, good, high quality experiences in early childhood, whether they're with grandma and grandpa, aunt and uncle, in a private child care, in a public child care, in a preschool. What can we do as a state to make sure that their early childhood experiences are great? And conversely, if they didn't have great college or early childhood experiences, what can we do to make sure that our kindergarten classrooms are equipped to meet the needs of every learner? The learner that is reading as a kindergartner and the learner that hasn't ever had a book read to them. How can we resource our classrooms well, hire great teachers? What can we do? That was the goal of the state. Increase students who demonstrate reading proficiency in 3rd grade. Increase the number of students who can read by the end of 3rd grade.
And is 3rd grade just like a halfway point? Is that why they choose 3rd grade? Or does something magical happen there?
Something magical happens. Something transitional happens.
Okay.
The first...
Is it puberty? Because...
Okay. Yeah. Right? Yeah, I have a
4th grader.
I watched my 2 granddaughters this weekend, 2 years old and 7 months old, alone. I'm telling you, I'm glad I'm standing today. But I think my 2-year-old granddaughter is entering puberty. I think I got a couple eye rolls this weekend even. But no, something very transitional happens in education in 4th grade. The first 3 years, you learn to read. That's your primary focus. In 4th grade, you read to learn. Pictures start disappearing. There's lots of informational text. And so if you can't read on 3rd grade level, you're going to struggle in science, social studies, all sorts of things. So that's why 3rd grade. Increase students who meet learning gains each year, meaning every child deserves a year of learning. So if you start as a 5th grader reading at 2nd grade level, you deserve to at least gain a year of learning. If you start 5th grade reading at an 8th grade level, you still deserve at least a year of growth in reading and writing. And so that's what that one means. Increase students who are engaged in learning. We actually measure this. We have compliant students, we have disengaged students, compliant students, and engaged students. You know what that disengaged student looks like. They aren't showing up, number one. They're falling asleep in class. Their behavior problems. We also know what that engaged student is. It's like they're going to the library or the media center and they're wanting to know information. They're Googling YouTube about that science thing that they just learned. They're coming home and talking your ear off about what they learned and they want to learn more. That's engaged. Compliant is those that you probably don't ever hear from, right? C's get degrees type of kids, right? They know exactly how many assignments they need to turn in order to get a passing grade, and they do more. So our goal here is to make sure that we are moving kids from disengaged to compliant, compliant to excited about their learning. Increase students who graduate choice ready. That's what Jim Upgren is going to talk to you about and specifically go through that with you. And then finally, based on data, reducing the disparity in students, in achievement for students with disabilities, students living in poverty, and Native American students. When we looked at the data overall, we saw that overall our kids were doing okay. But when we drilled into the data, we saw that our students that had disabilities, either cognitive or physical disabilities, so cognitive meaning learning disabilities or physical, were doing more, weren't doing as well, and the gap was wide. And then students in poverty, the same thing, and Native American students. And sometimes you have a student that it's in all three of those categories. So how are we going to achieve progress on these goals? Quality early childhood experiences, support for safe and healthy behaviors so they are engaged and excited about learning, career awareness, exploration and development, quality education personnel, meaning let's invest in professional development from our crossing guards all the way up to our school board presidents. All of you are education personnel because you all play a role in the success of students now. Quality student-centered instruction, meaning to what Amy pointed out, it's very individualized. If that student mastered that concept, don't make them sit through another 6 weeks of algebra. If they need more than 18 weeks, let's not make them start over and relearn everything. They're gonna get bored and disengage. Let's help them, give them a few more weeks to just master the end of the course material. So this committee, steering committee of all of those people, the alphabet soup of all of our associations, our tons of agencies, created these goals. But since we are a grassroots effort, we needed another entity to actually determine how to measure it. And so our K-12 Coordination Council, that is a legislative created body, came up with these long-term outcomes. Increase students who enter kindergarten, that's the first one. And it said, because we don't have an information system that's set up to share where kids come from, like, did they come from a home child care? Did they come from a preschool? Did they come from aunt and uncle, grandma and grandpa watching them? We encourage the Department of Human Services Early Learning Division to help us, and they are actually creating a system right now called eSIDS that will provide us this information, so when they come to your system as kindergarteners, you'll know where they came from, and you can start to encourage and build a stronger bridge. So, this increased students who demonstrate reading proficiency in 3rd grade. So it says, by the 2025 school year, percentage of students who are proficient or above on the North Dakota State Assessment reading subdomains will double from 2021 school year. So we want, our goal is 85.4%. You'll see that we were at 50.8 in our baseline. Then we had a negative of 8.1. You know what happened there. We're starting to make an incline, but we've got some steep roads ahead of us.
How do you expect that that's gonna happen? Seems unachievable.
So it is achievable, and I'll just point to Mississippi. So Alabama for 4 decades said, thank God for Mississippi, because Mississippi was 50th in the nation in reading. And about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, they became very, very committed to and unapologetic about the science of reading. Eliminating everything and anything in your school districts. Also, Donna, can you help remind me to send the link of Sold a Story by Emily Hanford? It's a podcast that you can listen all on your way home. Unapologetic about, through no ill intent, through no ill will, and absolutely nobody's fault, the way that we've been teaching reading for the last 2 decades has actually harmed children. It has what's called a 3-cueing method. Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd graders were taught to guess at words, to look at pictures, to see if it made sense. And the idea was if you just exposed children to enough good literature, they'd learn to love and they would do it more. When actually language is a very natural biological acquisition. and because of brain science and skull caps and all sorts of things, children learn language naturally, biologically. Reading is a very intentional effort that needs to be explicitly, those words and letters and sounds need to be explicitly deconstructed so they're able to have the skills. And it's not just phonics. A lot of people say it's, oh, just phonics. We've had that war forever. It's not just phonics. But it is understanding that the letter R says er. And you have to know that intentionally, and you have to be able to learn to blend. And then you have to learn vocabulary, because you can read a paragraph. There's an example where there's a paragraph about a baseball game, and you can absolutely, you read it quickly, efficiently, fluently, and you understand it because you know what all those words mean. You can, then the same paragraph is another paragraph that you can read efficiently, fluently, you don't stumble on any of the words, but it's about cricket, and nobody understands the language of cricket in the United States. So vocabulary, knowledge, comprehension, those are all things, but the very basic level is science of reading. So the North Dakota legislature passed a law in 2021 that said all teachers must be trained on the science of reading methods, and all school districts are now undergoing some significant professional development with their existing teachers, K through 3. So it's going to be tough, but it can be done. So Mississippi right now, they were 50th, now they're 31st. So they have just steep climb. It's possible.
Is this what they use to do that, or why?
So how did we, so some researchers and some psychometricians said this is an aggressive, but a goal, an aspirational goal, has to be high enough that it's going to change the way adults behave, but attainable. So that's how they landed on this. There was a committee that got together of teachers and researchers and algorithm psychometricians that said this is attainable if adult behaviors change, but it's going to be challenging enough.
So before 2018, 2019, did we not care? What was we at? Were we at a level and we just were like, oh, okay, that's okay?
So it's been declining over the last 2 decades. But because of what we talked about earlier, most parents, I'll share, there's a lot that I could share with you. There's a survey that just came out, a national survey that just came out that saw the disconnect. Most parents believe that their child is performing on grade level. Like almost 95% of parents would say that their child is performing at grade level in the nation, when in fact about 30% are. And parents, because this isn't their world, and I'm not going to just say parents, families, grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles, everybody, older brothers and sisters. Grades are the biggest indicator that families use to say if their child is on grade level. So when their child is getting A's and B's, they are assuming that they're on grade level when in fact
they're cheating.
They're not. They're getting their homework. Actually, there's lots and lots of conversation about, that I hope that you all have with your superintendents and your district team as you talk about in your retreats. Like, that's not your job to do those things, but it is your job to ask, how are our students doing? Actually, that's your most important job, because that's the reason we exist as public schools. So don't tell them how to do it, but just say, how are we doing? And what can we do to support you to make sure that you have what you need to get better, so our students can get better. And use data. I mean, not just once a year, as required by law, but like your meetings should be about how is the progress going. So this is expected learning gains. Again, we measure this. So we were at 55.1%, kind of tooling along. We're at 53.9. Again, we dipped. It was COVID. We're back up. We're going to get there. That's about making kids excited about learning, not just in kindergarten, but in 11th grade too. Because that's the tougher part, when they roll their eyes. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, that's expected learn, no, I'm sorry, that's the expected learning gains. This is the engaged in learning. So again, just a little bit of a dip. And again, we were on our way up, but when they came back to school full time, they questioned, like, why am I coming to school again? They were doing things independently, and then they were kind of put back into a model that they were like, really, we want to do something different.
Is that done off of attendance, or how do you get that?
We engage, it's part of our accountability system. Jim Upgren's going to talk to you about that. We actually have partnered with an international, it's been around for 125 years. It used to be Advanced Ed, it's called Cognia. And we measure that through some triangulated data that we use based on students. This, I want you to all know, this is super exciting. This is through a lot of hard work of our school districts. Look at that, we overshot. This is students graduating choice ready. High school principals, their counselors, their boards, their district leaders have really doubled down on this. And they have said, we can do this. Adult behavior changes can make this happen. So what choice ready means is, I'll use Mandan because that's where I was a school board member. Mandan graduates 100 kids. I'm making it up just for simplicity. In our baseline year, of those 100 kids that got their diploma, only 21% were choice ready, meaning that they met all the criteria of college ready and career ready, or career ready and military ready. They have to be ready in at least 2 of the 3, because kids change their mind. So that was really low. And so when school districts said, our high schools can do things differently, when you have 100 graduates and only 21 meet that criteria, what does that diploma mean? So they changed the way that they were doing things, and our goal, my goal, is to have 100% of our students graduating choice ready. That if 100 kids walk across that stage, 100 kids are going to be able to do whatever they choose to do when they leave.
Those 3 different categories, they were college, career, and military?
Correct.
Is that something that this group decided would be the 3 choices, or is it bigger than that?
It was
Is that one that
yeah.
Okay.
It was actually a different group, and that was mostly, it was preschool, K12, all of the associations, higher ed, business and industry, legislators.
Nationwide or statewide?
Just state.
Okay.
Just state. And we have a chart that will show you, break down exactly what criteria in order to meet that. So this is the disparity for disabilities, students of poverty, Native American students. So you'll see students with disabilities are in red, Native American students in blue, students in poverty, yellow. And so this is the opposite of the direction that we want most charts to go. We want this disparity to go down. So this is 85% disparity for students with disabilities compared to all students. 79% of Native American students compared to all students. So we've gone down in each of the categories in ELA, albeit small. Most significantly in our Native Americans. We've made some significant changes to the way that we support our Native American students, are seeing greater gains there. Again, I'm just going to come back to when adult behaviors change, student outcomes change. But student outcomes will never change until we start doing things differently. Math, 86 and 85. Students with disability, and Native American students, 86 to 84. Students in poverty, 78, stayed the same. This is the direction that we want it to go. So just want to let you know that the state is monitoring these. I'm going to just roll through these. It's kind of our timeline. The K-12 Coordination Council will be looking at this data, and we'll be talking about it as a state level. This is the timeline that we will have created for ourselves. We're going to release the 23 spring scores publicly released. That is kind of a I'm just gonna clear that urban legend. You're gonna hear from a lot of other people when you go to national conventions that the state assessment scores, you don't get those back until the next year, halfway through the year. That is absolutely not the case in North Dakota. Your teachers have access to how their students did the week after the kids take the test. Your building principal has access to how your kids did. Your your school superintendent has access to how your kids did a month after they're not publicly released until the fall, but your school district can look at those scores, your teachers can look at the scores, they can plan what professional development they want to do in the fall based on those scores. We are very fortunate because we are hard negotiators at DPI, and we said if you're not getting it back to us within that 2 weeks, we're not contracting with you. So I feel sorry for those other states that don't have access to their scores, but North Dakota has access to their scores almost immediately. And then they become public in the fall. After we give schools an opportunity to verify, confirm, we work out anomalies because we don't want to make anything public if there might have been something that was wonky. Then we will analyze the data. We will provide a progress monitoring report. December, we will share with the full council. We're going January, February, this council will identify potential next steps and actions that the state can take. And March and September, we'll collaborate with our legislators and entities to recommend policy changes and appropriations. If we're seeing that we need more effort for students with disabilities, what can we do for appropriations? What can we do for policy? The reason I share this with you, and I'm between you and a break, which I just blew through, holy cats. I share this progress monitoring calendar with you because we are never, ever, ever going to make any progress on this at the state level unless each and every one of you leans in. The only way that we're going to be able to do this as a state is if every school board, every superintendent, every building leader says these are the things we need to keep track of. So it's just kind of a sample of what you guys might be doing as well. So, I was supposed to give you a break 25 minutes ago. Next thing on our agenda is gym. Do we want to take a 5-10 minute break? 5-10 minute break. Very good.